Here's how to piss off two fan bases that I adore so much in one video. I know I say I do this a lot, but you know what? I can't help but notice that the pattern is persisting with this video right here. Let's go over onto thefourthperiod.com because David Pagnotta's article right here, the trade watch list of 21-22, was updated a few days ago. Now, I'm recording this video March 11th, Friday, 5:35 p.m. PST. This article is recent as of... what in the heck is that? Like 4 hours ago from the time of me talking into this microphone? The video itself is not going to be published until Sunday, so yeah, I apologize for that. I'm going on a trip, so I'm going to have to pre-record some videos. That's what I'm doing right here on this Friday evening, I guess you could say. It's kind of dark outside. But on this trade watch list, there are indeed names and there are indeed teams that are, according to sources, involved in discussions for these players. If you go over onto the Vancouver Canucks side of things, you can find yourselves a few Canucks that are represented on the trade watch list. And number 18 is a name that a lot of Canucks fans are super familiar with. It is Prince Charming, Mr. Sensitive, Shrek's biggest nightmare, Brock Boeser. And I just wanted to point out right before we get into that, I love how the website on the fourth period has now incorporated the upper deck cards alongside of the profile instead of just having their normal picture. Like, come on, that's cool. Seeing the Dazzler's Boeser card over there, nice touch, the fourth period. But this is what they have to say about BB6 himself. There are teams that are very interested in Brock Boeser who can become an RFA this summer. The Canucks, however, really like him too. There has been open dialogue between the team and Brock Boeser's representation, as the fourth period's Dave Pagnotta has continuously reported, and unless a team completely knocks Vancouver's socks off, the team is holding on to him. But they aren't ignoring calls. If a team is willing to pay a premium, they'll listen. Now, when it comes to the teams that have reportedly been linked, it kind of blows my mind that we're talking about this, but I just wanted to make this video to completely wipe everything off the board and make sure that we have covered all this stuff. New Jersey, Toronto, Montreal, LA, and Pittsburgh. Okay. Two of these fan bases have not had any discussion or discourse about Brock Boeser, so I wanted to open that up here in this video. Let's talk about the other three first before we dive into the two new ones. New Jersey has been quite the situation over the past few weeks. We've talked about Brock Boeser, we've talked about Connor Garland, how the Devils, even though they're not really all too good of a team, they still want to add somebody of that caliber, and either of these two guys, right-handed forwards that can score goals, that can work hard, that can do some pretty good things, might be on their radar. For the LA Kings, that was a video we actually made a few days ago, talking about how the Capitals and the Kings might actually be interested in Brock Boeser. LA's a team that I like a lot because their prospect pool, especially on the right side defense, is pretty stacked. So if the Vancouver Canucks were to make a trade of Brock Boeser sending him over to LA, I would very much be intrigued as to what Allvin and Rutherford would decide would be the return. Pittsburgh is kind of a bigger deal than we've made it out to be on the channel so far. Like, we've made a video or two talking about the Penguins and the Canucks and Brock Boeser, etc., but like, it's weird how much conversation has been going around the past few days about Pittsburgh and how it's not even just Brock Boeser apparently that's on their radar. They're looking for a top six scorer, and teams like the Montreal Canadiens, we're talking about other players on other squads that have been linked in some ways more than once to Pittsburgh, so they're just kind of all over the place. Brock Boeser apparently is one guy that they very much like. It's not surprising because Boeser's a good catch, and also Allvin, Rutherford, etc. being guys that worked in the Pittsburgh system before, there's an easier connection to make there. But Montreal and Toronto, oh boy, you want to talk about pissing off fan bases, let's talk about the Montreal Canadiens here first and foremost. Now, when it comes to what the Habs could give the Canucks, let's assume Kent Hughes goes out there and he wants Brock Boeser. He wants the Burnsville, Minnesota native whose qualifying offer this upcoming offseason is $7.5 million a year. If Montreal is the team that goes ahead and gets it done, I personally would question what the Canucks would be thinking in terms of a return. If you want to talk about right side defense, I mean, it's pretty much just Logan Mailloux at this point, and I'm going to piss some people off by saying this, but I don't want the Canucks to get Logan Mailloux. I don't want the Canucks anywhere near this guy. All issues off the ice aside, he just wasn't good enough, in my opinion, to be a first-round pick and be as highly touted as some people thought he was going to be. I personally am not a fan. Let's go over onto other right side defenders that the Canadiens do have. And there aren't really too many of them. Jaden Struble, Caden Gooley, Fairbrother, Jordan Harris, these guys are all left. I mean, Norlinder is also left too, but he can play on the right, same with Jordan Harris, so who knows if there's a fit there. I'm not really too sure if the Vancouver Canucks would be all too willing to go the left-handed defenseman playing on the right side route long term, because we know how well that worked with Nate Schmidt, but either way, I mean, it's a new regime, right? When we do have some other guys like Burrows and Hunt that swap sides once in a while, so I guess it's not really that big of a deal, but still, if you want to go ahead with natural right side guys, Brock Boeser going over to Montreal probably wouldn't be the best bet to go ahead and accomplish that. Now, having Brock playing with Montreal is not that new of an idea. We actually made an NHL trade proposals video about this 2 years ago. 2 years ago? No, 3. 2019 summer, yes, I was in Japan, and we made a video talking about the idea of trading away Brock Boeser for Cole Caulfield in a first, and a whole bunch of people got pissed off about that, even though I was just kind of using the trade suggestions that you gave in the comment section below to make that video. Again, I kind of understand why people are upset, but still. This idea would be pretty cool because having a Canucks sniper go over to Montreal is something we're sort of used to already. Tyler Toffoli was exactly that, and having Brock Boeser do the exact same thing, well, heartbreaking for me in one side of my mind, would be super fulfilling on the other side, because all of a sudden, you know, every time Montreal's going to play Vancouver, Brock Boeser's going to pot in a hat trick or two, right? Like, that's just going to happen because Tyler Toffoli did it. Now, going over onto the other team, Toronto, I'm sorry I didn't diversify the time properly between the two teams, but like, for Toronto, this team has a lot more right side depth on their blue line, especially in the prospect system. I do like Topi Niemela, I like Timothy Liljegren. Of course, we've heard that the Maple Leafs don't want to give up Topi Niemela, but before we expand a little bit more, I don't want to see anybody in the comments going, oh, just trade Justin Hall for Brock Boeser, eh? Brock Boeser for Justin Hall and a first. No, sirree, Bob, am I not touching Justin Hall on this Vancouver Canucks team. You can keep that guy. The Canucks will likely want to go with different options. So, Brock Boeser going over to Toronto, I mean, they've been linked to everybody under the moon the past few weeks, talking about scorers, talking about depth guys, talking about defenders, talking about goaltenders. Toronto is Toronto, the center of the hockey universe. So the fact that Brock Boeser is linked here as well, I mean, of course he is. Of course. JT Miller, we had conversations about Miller and the Maple Leafs earlier on in the season as well. So it's only natural that Brock is included too. Not to mention Connor Garland. Where the heck is that guy? He probably should be involved here too, because I mean, you take a look at how Garland plays the game. He's kind of a jack-of-all-trades sort of player. I wouldn't be surprised if the Maple Leafs wanted Garland more because of the way he's able to grind along the boards and fight for pucks and all that. Having Brock Boeser on your team, though, would be absolute overload. Having a Nylander, a Matthews, a Boeser, and a Spezza on all 4 lines would give you snipage abilities like no other team has had before. I personally would fear for my life if I were to see that go down on the ice, but either way, should the Toronto Maple Leafs actually make a trade package that is worth it, and it includes a pretty good right side defenseman prospect, hey, I could honestly get on board, especially if it's only for 1 year, because, let's face it, if Toronto goes out there and gets Brock, like, how the heck are they going to keep him? They've already gone the way they have with their salary cap and the overpayment of all the players in their team, and they're chomping at the bit for cheaper guys, entry-level guys that you can max out their value. They're playing bigger than their contracts are. Brock Boeser, for all intents and purposes, I love the guy, but he's en route to being overpaid if that qualifying offer gets fulfilled and he gets 7.5. So any team that's going to go out there and acquire Brock, you need to make sure you have a plan to qualify this guy and help him stick around, because the money is going to be a pretty interesting conversation to have. Now, whether or not that's going to be Toronto or Montreal or Pittsburgh or New Jersey or LA, that remains to be seen. We still haven't seen Brock Boeser get traded yet. Or, I mean, maybe you have. I'm making this video on Friday, March 11th. It'll be uploaded on Sunday, the 13th, so who really knows? You can let me know in the comments all your thoughts about Brock Boeser and trade proposals. If it is the Montreal Canadiens that acquire Brock Boeser, what would you want in return for him? What would you want from the Habs that would actually suffice your trade desires? If it's Toronto, same question. Do you want a Topi Niemela? Do you want a Timothy Liljegren? Do you want a Rodion Amirov instead? There are a few guys that could be of value, but it's going to depend on who you ask. One last thing, though, I wanted to ask about this entire conversation. Out of these teams, New Jersey, Toronto, Montreal, LA, and Pittsburgh, that are listed on the 4th period as being interested in Brock Boeser, should you choose one for Brock to actually go to, which one would that be and why? Is it the trade return that you would be most excited for from Toronto that makes you want to see them come in? Or do you want to just see Brock Besser tear things up with Pittsburgh because that would be funny, having him playing with Crosby and seeing him reignite his career in ways we never thought was possible? Do you want to see him go over to New Jersey to see him play with another Hughes brother, or two, because there's two over there? Do you want to see him go to LA so you can see him get the Hollywood lifestyle like the superstar A-list actor he appears to be? Let me know in the comments all your thoughts about these destinations, which one you would prefer the most. I hope you enjoyed this British 99, and bye.